Welcome everybody to Friday Live at 5, where we paint and make pasta dishes. Today we're going to take a break from landscape and treat this nice floral subject. My class in Dubuque just did amazingly at this. I was just so thrilled at what they accomplished. And hello, Judith. I wanted, since they did so well, I think maybe I'll try to do this and possibly throw a couple little extra things in that, maybe they could try as a fun thing as they look at the review. I especially want to, Mark and Marna from that class, I especially want to do a shout out to you. If you do go to Rome to visit your daughter, try to hang on through the end of the show here, and I'm going to make one of the 4 classic Roman pastas, which if you have a opportunity to try at a trattoria in Rome and get the authentic thing, please do. So the task this week was to treat edges interestingly, plan a watercolor, plan the plan of attack, what you do, and also try and learn the actually very simple technique of making something transparent like glass look like that. So I'm going to start in with the draw, and always I try to emphasize the idea that you can't paint or draw things, you paint or draw shapes. So what are the shapes? And the most important thing about those shapes is, where are they? For starters, at about the 1/3 line through this rectangle here, hi Charles, the center line of these flowers, these peonies, occurs. So I'm drawing a line there just to make that give me an idea of where that goes. Then I'm going to try and find the bottom, which is about maybe the 1/6 or something. It's somewhere about there. And then I'm going to look at 1, 2, 3. Okay, so 1/3 is the jar. Now I'm just drawing straight lines. I'm not trying to draw curves and ellipses yet. We're going to do that later. So having established these key horizontals and key verticals, and then I'm going to find where about would the top of these flowers come. So, first thing, where is it? We're finding where. How big is it? Okay, comes out to about here and here. Then, what shape is it? Okay, so if you look at it, it's kind of a oval or a lozenge. So let's just start with that, and we can refine it. We can make it something else later. You can only draw shapes. You can't draw things. So within that, all right, let's try to get a little more refined. The bottom of this, we notice, there's some curvature to it, and it's kind of a cat's eye shape. Now up here, about 2/3 up at the length of the jar, is another, you can't really see it, but it's kind of a cat's eye shape too. But it's narrower. And I'm sneaking in the task of painting ellipses. Now the corners of that jar, then they curve into that. And I'm going to darken up these lines as I go along. Some curvature there. Now the flowers, center line through them, little bit of a tangent there. Not a tangent, what do I want to say? A diagonal there. In the middle is this one peony, the closest to us, which is pretty much circular and comes out more or less to the edges of the jar. The other one is sort of a upside down D shapes. Now, I'm going to take the eraser and I'm going to take out the construction line here. Notice I'm not painting a back line to the table. I want to keep the emphasis on the flowers and the canning jar here. So that's where it's going to stay. Now, next shapes, these leaves. But look, let's see if we can refine the flowers a bit more. This cuts into, consider that a circle like a clock. At about 7 o'clock, there's a tongue shape coming out of there that's a petal. It looks like a Rolling Stone tongue. At about 4 to 5 o'clock is where the other flower exits. At about 7 or 8 o'clock is where this one comes. And there's a very skinny little leaf coming out of there. And there's looks like a kind of a claw shape. You can't get this wrong. I mean, now, this big leaf. Now, it's very important, even if it weren't the case, to make a small, a medium, and a large leaf. That gives compositionally more interest. So this one comes out with a little bit of a knob like that. Now in here, if you can see this, there's kind of a shape like that. I used another mnemonic reference, which was probably too obscure for most people, having to do with a weird science fiction TV show. Okay, now there's a bit of a notch down from there, coming across like this. All right, okay, let's take our eraser and eliminate the lines we don't want. Always, always leave the lines you don't want in until you've got the lines you do want drawn, because you will accidentally go back and draw them in the same place again, and it just will drive you crazy. Okay, so there's that. Now let's get into the reflected shapes inside the jar. These leaves here, I think this shape as a whole kind of looks like a crab claw or a lobster claw or something. The important thing to notice is when something is out of the water in a jar and then goes into the water, 5:09 p.m. the refraction, it jogs a little bit. Okay, so we're going to come down out of that Rolling Stone tongue shape, and we're going to come down like this. But then at this point and this point, we're going to go jog over. So that if they don't meet the water at the same place, they will appear to have that refracted character. And there's all kinds of oddness in there. If you get something odd, you'll be okay. Now this shape back here, I think, is actually a reflection of that shape on the back side of the jar. So I'm going to paint that in later. And then I do have a stem. There are a couple stems coming down these shapes. So draw them if you need them. It's almost more fun and better to paint them. So yeah. I'm going to darken some of these shapes up. Hopefully they'll be visible. It's very important to make these two flowers stay well back of this one, which is hanging forward, and these two are hanging off back to the side. So when we did the I'll address it when we paint it. Okay, so we've got our drawing. We can be done with that. Now what? We have to plan our washes. This area here is basically, oops, come back. There we go. It's a yellow ochre with some inclusions of blue and burnt sienna. This is primarily a pale pink. Now, if you notice here, this is a very pale pink, and then I've subsequently glazed over when it was dry with darker pinks. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come down with this wash, beaded wash of yellow ochre, throw in a little bit of ultramarine blue, throw in a little bit of burnt sienna. We're going to also have mixed up a very pale pink, and we're going to put that in there. So we'll come down yellow ochre, switch to pink, go back to yellow ochre, and come down all through here. We're just going to paint right across the leaves, right across the glass. The whole trick to painting something transparent is painting what it looks like behind it. Nothing else to that. All you have to do is leave out this little skinny lip cat's eye shape and this fatter cat's eye shape as white paper, and it'll look like the very reflected part of the glass. So the first thing I have to mix up with my big brush, the mop brush, is a good sized puddle of yellow ochre. Runny mix, because it's going to be a beaded wash. By the way, happy Good Friday to everyone. Now I'm going to modify that puddle. I'll make two. I'm going to put a little bit of burnt sienna in it so that as I come down, I'm going to switch to the more tawny burnt sienna color. Runny mixes of paint. Tip them, they run. Okay. Now they also have to mix up a pale, gorgeous pink using the alizarin crimson, which is a powerful color, so I have to be careful and get it fairly thick. So I'm going to try a tester. That looks a little strong, but I think I'll be all right. Maybe I'll put a little more and a little more water. Better to have more than less, because we're going to be mixing darker versions of these colors as we go, and we just add more pigment to the puddle that we have, so no problem. All this paint is going to get used. Alrighty, let's start. Beaded wash. Load the brush from the side, not from the point. Pull sideways. Leave a strong bead there to pick up on. I'm going to start I'm going to stop right there and I'm going to rinse that. And I'm going to switch to this runny pink. And I'm going to come up and I'm going to catch that. Go back to the yellow ochre. Come down the side of this. Rinse. Go back to the pink. And I'm going to let that edge bleed out of there, the pink into the yellow ochre. I don't mind the two of them blending because the reason being, I want those edges at the back of these things to be very soft. Painting through the leaves because they're darker, right? And they're a little darker at the bottom, so I don't mind getting extra paint in there. Now, back to the yellow ochre. And I am just letting that bleed into the surrounding areas. The only thing I have to do is stop here at this skinny ellipse. And the bead waits for us on that. That's what the bead is good at. So coming underneath it, painting through the jar, painting through the leaves, just leaving that shape. Keeping a bead. Notice a very soft edge back there. One of the participants, Bill, boy, he just, some of them, boy, I tell you, some of those folks in that class, parts of their paintings were to die for, better than anything I do. Okay, now at this point, I'm going to start smuggling in some ultramarine blue. Kind of suggest the back line of that table, which really isn't going to show. And now I'm going to switch to the burnt sienna yellow ochre mix as I come forward, just being careful that I miss that cat's eye shape at the bottom of the jar. Let's get some more burnt sienna in there. Some more yellow ochre. Just don't get your shape in your jar there. Now, there is a bit of a pink reflection coming out of there. And it transitions to a blue shadow. That looks dark now, but I am going to let it peter out. See if I can get that shape a little more accurate. More burnt sienna yellow ochre through the front. Okay, now this, we pretty much have to dry. I know it looks blurry there. It looks like the tie-dyed t-shirt. It's the Holy Mess stage. Oh my goodness, look at that. Let's mop up some of this so it doesn't, and let's leave it. Sometimes you get a little present. I'm gonna mute the microphone and do the hair dryer. All right, so it's nice and dry. I'm going to take my eraser and I'm going to eliminate any pencil marks in the whites. It would have been nice actually to lighten the pencil marks up here so that edge faded. But we do what we do. Now, we're going to start glazing. And glazing is the technique of putting a runny mix of paint onto a absolutely dry, previously painted surface. So I'm going back into this alizarin mix, and I'm going to start getting some of these other areas like that. So one here, when I had them doing this, I asked them to do the thing that we did when we painted the snow picture, which is feel the form, feel where you're at on it. When in the snow painting, we said, feel like you're walking down the embankment into the ditch, up onto the road, across the road, down into the other ditch, and up onto the field. You want to just imagine yourself feel that. On this, we want to feel like I'm on this side of the flower, or I'm down in that part of the flower, or I'm over here, or I'm underneath it, that kind of thing. That will, if you just imagine that, it will help you create a believable form. So I'm going in places where it might be darker a little bit. The front of the thing is going to be a little darker. Anywhere where it curves under, that's going to be a darker portion. In the cup of the flower, and this flower up here is like this. This one is like this, and this one is like that. So, hello, Susan. So it sounds kind of new agey or weird, but if you sort of feel where you're at on the thing that you're painting, you will more convincingly get the feel of it. So these edges up here I feel are kind of hard. So I rinsed the brush, I squeezed it out, and I'm going to kind of soften them just a bit. And maybe I'll take some of the paler mix of the, see, I've got a darker bit here and a paler bit up here. I'm going to get some of the paler bits, and towards the back, that's what I'm going to use. So down underneath the flower, the front of the flower, let's see, maybe this edge I want to be softer, so it looks like it's going like that. I'm going to get a little more of this, a stiffer mix of this paint. See, that doesn't move, it doesn't run. I'm going to touch that in while it's wet. And this is underneath the bottom of the flower, the areas that would be darker, technically darker. Here comes that little tongue of a petal. Some down in there, maybe a bit on here, some there. So I'm trying to create the form of the flower. Don't worry about getting into the leaves. You will have, they're darker, so you'll have more opportunity to create that shape. So just a few places like that. And I always tell folks, when you see the thing starting to look like what you're trying to paint, Well, thank you, Anne. That's a good time to stop. It's like using cayenne or some sort of salt or something when you're cooking. I mean, you throw in a little and it's better, and then we don't keep throwing it in because it's not going to. You're going to make it worse then. Soften that edge. Test that later. Maybe just a couple little things there. Okay, so I'm going to put that brush aside. I'm going to get the smaller brush, that one there. Maybe I'll dampen this area, loosen up some of that blue, and smuggle in some of that pink. By the way, for those of you who are interested in painting floral subjects, I'm just using regular alizarin crimson here. There are some other colors that will more nail that floral pink. Hi, Michael. So while this is still a little damp, I'm going to smuggle a little ultramarine blue in here in the dark areas where we're looking down into the interior of that peony, and it's mixing some of that with the alizarin to get a purple to create a little more of the form. Because that surface is wet, when I put this thicker paint in, it's going to disperse but kind of stay put, or more or less where I stick it. Now down here, down in underneath of the things, that's where it's going to be darker. Now I'm going to start in on those greens. Prussian will give us a stronger green color because it's very dark to start with. So I'm primarily going to mix Prussian blue and yellow ochre. To get a green. Dark. And here's a crazy thing. If you throw a little bit of alizarin or a red into your green, it gets darker looking without getting brown. Now you put a lot in it, will get kind of brownish. But I'm going to start up here on these leaves, the big leaf. Bold, confident strokes. So this is slower moving paint, but it's also darker paint. So there's some, now it's very important here to come down below that line with this, so it looks like this floral matter, leaves, stems, whatever, is hitting the surface of that water. I'm going to put a little more yellow ochre and a little more Prussian blue together and do these, the medium-sized leaves, small. And see, I'm letting that blur up, blur, what, doesn't matter. That line needs to be straight. Blur and bleed underneath those flowers. And just, that's the thing that watercolor does that we love watercolor for. Because only watercolor will do that. Let's maybe touch a bit of that in there. Bit of that in there. Bit of that in there. Now, here's the trick. In order to make the leaves underneath the water look like they're in water. We're going to change the character. We're going to make it a little lighter and a little yellower. So that means more yellow ochre and a wee bit more water. Not much, but a wee bit. So we're going to come right up to the water line. Maybe get a little bit of the Prussian blue and let it bleed back into this yellower mix. There's some, get the water line, come down here. I'm going to get into the ultramarine blue and the yellow ochre, and you'll see why in a bit. We're suggesting the stems. Okay. Now, that thing over there, more water with this mix. And I'm going to pick up on the water line. And I think it's a reflection of what we see down there. Okay, now the jar. Prussian blue and a lot of water. Well, not a lot of water. It's, a fair amount of water. I'm going to come across here and let that just, see how it kind of slides down under here at the corner, and then we'll rinse the brush, take it uphill. We want to find that line, lose that line. Find it there, lose it here. Find it there, lose it here. Now, there's a embossed area on the ball jar that is a circle. I'm going to paint that. I'm going to put a little bit of that right here at the front. Again, not connecting it solidly. You want to find it and lose it. And then I'm going to take a little bit of that pink and touch in there. Maybe we'll put a bit of that here too. So while we're waiting for that to set up, this has gotten drier. So we can come in and we go, it's not completely dry, is it? Parts of it are. So we're going to make some darker marks to create the illusion of petals. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to dry this a bit more. Okay, so we're starting to get towards the tail end of this thing. We're making smaller marks. I'm going to take my eraser and really get rid of all the spare. Oh, look at that. Let's see, what can we do? Oh, quick. All right, quick. That was wet. Water. Loosen it up. And we're going to make it look like, let's get some of that. Every emergency is an opportunity. we're going to, I mean, I was actually going to do this, but not this way. Ha! We're putting a little bit of that on there to make it look like the green character of the ball jar. Under here too. But then I'm going to tease that out with water. Okay, so I didn't want to do that then. What I wanted to do was get back up here and do a little more with the flowers. So, all's well that ends well. A little bit of ultramarine blue accent there. Okay. Mixing some red. With the green to get some strong darks. It's going to be darkest where it tucks under things. And when I say tuck under, you want to feel that tucking under. So I'm looking at it, rinsing, going for a paler version of the pink. So what I was saying earlier that I didn't finish saying, if you like floral subjects, there are pigments other than alizarin crimson which really nail the that uniquely floral pink. It's called Opera Rose, is one manufacturer's version of it. Another manufacturer's version of it is called Opera. I don't know why they chose Opera for the why pink suggests opera, I have no idea. But such as it is, that's what they chose. Okay, now I'm getting close to things I want to, maybe just a little bit of a glaze to darken. Ooh, I suggested using the other red, the Naphthol or the Cad red, for the front of this petal. And then to soften that edge and make it look water at the top. A little on the sides, something on there. And yeah, that's the thing. That's the ticket. Okay, where can we go from here? Well, for starters, we can take some clear water in our stiff brush, this one, and we can complete that circle by creating a lift. So I put water there, and I'm just loosening up that paint. So that gives maybe a little bit more of the illusion of a embossed glass ball jar. I think I'm going to go back to the big brush, and I'm just going to try to get a little more interest back in this area. So I'm going to dampen it with water. And then I'm going to get a little bit of blue. And come down here like so, just for the fun of it. Okay, let's detape and see what we get. Just 1 second though. Now, okay, let's detape tape and see if that tells us anything. Oh yeah, I think I should soften this edge up here. Perhaps a little bit there, just to make that flower look a bit rounder. Possibly a little bit of extra red there. And I think if I keep fiddling with it, I'll be unhappy. He says as he mixes up something to possibly just do that. Maybe a bit there. And yeah, I think I'll do that. Call it quits. So to review what I was trying to get, oh, let's see, I see a couple items. A little bit of a the trick to making something transparent look transparent is we want to basically paint the background that we see through it and whatever influence the transparent material has on it. It might darken it a bit. It might cause a slight color change if there's a tint to the glass or something. You just paint the background with the influence of the material. So I'm just putting a little bit of greenishness in there to suggest that slight green character of the ball jar glass. I need to have a couple marks in here, and I think that'll be about it.